Good morning, friends. Good to see you today. I hope everybody had a good night, didn't get washed away. Yeah. Thankful for a little rain, but that's good. Yeah. I think Andrea was up late watching the weather report. I slept through the whole thing. I think the roof could have blown off, and I might not have known it, but yeah, limbs down. Yep, that's right. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I thought about that. I thought about it this morning. We had already sent that. It might not have been too funny if we'd have had a lot of damage. We might have had to change that, but I'm thankful that we didn't. We are going to begin with number 467 this morning. There shall be showers of blessing. Oh, what now? Oh, 2012. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt, didn't you? Yeah. Well, let's sing all four stanzas here of 467. There shall be showers of blessing. There shall be showers of blessing. This is the promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent from the Savior above. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, precious reviving again, over the hills and the valleys, sound of abundance of rain. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, send them upon us, O Lord. Grant to us now a refreshing, come and now honor thy word. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, oh, that today they might fall. Now as to God we're confessing, now as on Jesus we call. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. When we think about what's happening here at Auburn, we are experiencing right now a time of showers of blessing. You think about the fact that it's closed right now, but the baptistry doors are going to be open again this Sunday because we're going to be baptizing again this Sunday. Praise the Lord. That's just God's sovereign hand at work. Yeah, hey, Barry, I like the way. Let's send that to the business meeting. I vote yes on that one. How about that? Yeah. You get the spiders out. We didn't know we needed to send the exterminator to the baptistry, did we? Yeah, that's right. That was a very Baptist spider. It sure was. That's right. Well, let's continue singing now before I get us off track. Number 456, Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me home. Oh, I love this song. Number 456, Precious Lord, take my hand. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. I love that thought. You know, I may have told you before, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. Our church in Tennessee, there was a precious senior adult lady named Miss Ruby, and we would sing a song there that we've sung here before at our church. It's called "I Can't Even Walk Without You Holding My Hand." And Miss Ruby, she had experienced a lot of hardship in her life, and in fact, her husband just had a lot of health issues, and she wasn't actually able to live where he lived because of that. He had to be in a nursing care facility, and just seeing her, she sat right there in that church. She was right there, and I remember when we think about that sentiment of, Lord, take my hand, you're leading me. You know, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I just remember her standing up in the middle of the service and hands in the air saying, yes, Lord, that's my testimony. Isn't it good to know that the Lord never leaves us and he never forsakes us? Oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Where would we be without Jesus? I don't even want to think about that. Thank you, Lord. Well, let's look at one more this morning. It's number 277. And this is our prayer. I know this is all of our prayer here. Take my life, let it be consecrated. Now, that word, consecrated, is a churchy word, right? It's probably not one that you use in your daily life outside of the walls of this place. Barry probably doesn't go into where he keeps his fishing poles and say, I have consecrated yon poles for fishing. Okay. He might. You can't ever tell. Yeah, that's right. Barry's a very educated angler is what he is. Now, of course, you know, though, that the word consecrated there just means set apart for a particular purpose. And so our prayer here is, Lord, here's my life. You use my life however you want to use it. God, that's my prayer. And then, of course, you know this hymn. You've sung it all your life. It goes through, I love the writing here. It goes through the different parts of our life, the different aspects of who we are. So let's sing all four stanzas here. Number 277, take my life and let it be consecrated. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love, at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing always only for my King, always only for my King. Take my silver not a mite would I withhold. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own. It shall be thy royal throne. It shall be thy royal throne. Oh, what a great prayer. Good job singing this morning, church, and good job, Miss Leona, as always. I sure did appreciate that pre-service music as well. Very nice, very nice. Well, let's take our Saints Alive guide here and turn over to the back. We've got several announcements, things that are happening. Of course, you can see the announcement that are there about our mission trip registrations. Those are live on the church app, or if the church app may be a little hard to navigate, some of those electronic things can be kind of tough sometimes. If you want to come see Brother Jim or me after Saints Alive or at some other port, call our church office. We can definitely give you all the information you need about those mission trips, and we'd love to have you participate. Now, you can see this Sunday morning, we've got something special, something unique. I don't think we've ever done this before, or at least we haven't done it since I've been here. The Grab and Go Breakfast Fundraiser for Mexico Missions. I think this is going to be a great idea, and I think it's going to be a great way to raise some money for Mexico. Now, what will happen is there in this hallway behind us, back where the restrooms are, somewhere in that hallway, there's going to be a table where they're going to set up, our missions team's going to set up a hot breakfast. Okay. There will also be a table down in the FLC somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where that's going to take place, but the missions team is on top of that. And before you go to Life Group, swing by one of those tables, make a little donation to Mexico Missions, grab a hot breakfast, and go to Life Group. Okay? Easy breezy, right? Yeah, good cause, and you get a little something good on your belly too. So I bet Life Group's going to be better because everybody's going to be caffeinated and hooked up and blood sugar on a high. So this is going to be good, man. Y'all may go past time. You can see also we've got our our final Wednesday night meal. I'm just putting that out there for you so you kind of know how this goes. You know, we take a break in the summer with our Wednesday night meals, and so the last one before our summer break will be May the 13th. And then you can see down at the bottom of the page, the big announcement there is that we are expanding on what we did last summer. You'll remember last summer during the month of July, we had one service on Sunday morning, alternate schedule there. Well, this year, we are starting a little earlier. We're going to go through the whole summer, just kind of monitor this and see how this goes. We're going to begin on May the 31st, and this schedule, alternate schedule, will run through the end of July, the 26th. And here's how it's going to work. Life groups at 9 o'clock, and then one worship service right here in the sanctuary at 10. Okay? Our folks tend to go on vacations, you know, and sometimes if we break into two services, it can feel a little bit like, hey, how you doing way over there? And so we're just going to kind of consolidate things a little bit, and I feel like it's going to feel really neat in here because the room will be full even during the summer. So if you have any questions about that, come see me afterwards. I think that's it. So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Jim. You're asking a great question, Carolyn. Now, Carolyn's question was, does Wednesday morning continue during the summer? Great question. Thank you for asking that. The answer is yes. with a few exceptions. There are some times during the summer where we won't have Wednesday morning, like during Vacation Bible School. I think there's a mission trip when we're both going to England. We won't have it that day, and there may be a couple of times I'm not thinking about. But on the whole, yes.
Very good. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for coming this morning. Glad y'all survived the storms last night. I was on the opposite end. I was the one that was staying up late last night going, okay, what is Matt saying, and where's this storm coming? And trying to talk with Foster in Saltillo, and, just kind of going back and forth. So, but it's an interesting night, as always, when storms hit. They don't ever come, rarely come during the day, do they? I guess the tornado did, but most of the times it's late into the night. So if I were to say this question, you can pick your friends, but you're stuck with family. If you pick your friends, but you're stuck with family. That's not always a negative thing, because we're glad to have our family for sure, but we know that oftentimes family dynamics can be very complicated, can't they? And it seems to be exponentially harder when an issue happens in the family versus when it happens outside. Is because family dynamics, that closeness of family, and even in the estrangement of family, leads to a void. It leads to a lot of heartache, because the family, you feel like that you're supposed to get along, you're supposed to be there for each other. And so when those things start breaking apart, it becomes very, very hard. Well, one of the aspects of this particular story that we're watching, and I remember we're walking through David's life right now, and we've walked through, when everything has been great, everything's been wonderful, and David has been on top of the world as far as his leadership. Israel has become the kingdom of the world. And then all of a sudden, David has that illicit affair with Bathsheba, and it begins to really destroy, and it always does. And though he's been forgiven and he remains king, God is merciful in that way. He's let him know that the sword's never going to depart from his home. It's going to always be some struggle and dysfunction within the home, and it's going to be messy. And as we saw last week with the rape and the murder and all these kind of things that are happening as a result, and that was all in the family, we see what's happening as a result. God's prophetic message through Nathan is becoming, or really the fruition of that is becoming reality. And now it just seems like there's one thing after another. And so as a result, there's additional issues that are happening. Now, who was the one that committed murder last week? Do you remember in the story? Who was, Absalom was the murderer, and he kills his brother Amnon, and that's a result of him just getting back for what his brother has done. But it's also, he took it on himself to take care of an issue that who should have taken care of? David. David should have taken care of this as a father, but instead David is in that horrible position of what happens when some sin of the magnitude of what David did. He lacks this feeling of any kind of moral authority. Feel like probably in his mind, even though he's been forgiven by God, he has this lingering shame and this idea that, well, who am I to make things right? Who am I to go in and say, hey, guys, we shouldn't do this, or we shouldn't have been done, and to bring justice and into the situation. David instead does what's really worse, and that's what? He does nothing. He does nothing. And so he absolutely, the Bible tells us in 2 Samuel 13, verse 21, that he was furious, but that was it. He did nothing as a result. So, as a result, what we're beginning to see is we're seeing a whole lot of smoke. And where there's smoke, what? There's fire. And this is going to be, I don't know if you ever are going down Natchez Trace, or you can actually be going out into the country anywhere, to where in the distance, it may be during the fall, sometimes it's in the early spring, mostly fall, you see a lot of smoke and you realize farmers are burning their fields just to kind of prepare them. But you see all that smoke and all you can think about is what building's on fire, whose house is on fire, and who lives out that way, and you begin to start thinking, then you realize it was, there various fires. They're burning the field. But in this situation, what we're starting to see, we're starting to see a lot of fire. This black fire, this smoke, and it is leading to what is going to be an inferno in David's situation, and it's beginning to really burn deeply. So let's look at this a little bit, and we're going to be in chapter 14 today, and I want us to look at this of what's going on in this particular situation. A lot has happened since Nathan has come before. Since this Bathsheba affair, Nathan has confronted David. God has forgiven David and restored him to continue to allow him to be king. God's prophetic statements through Nathan are beginning to come out, and now something is brewing under the surface as we see what's going on here. So let's look at verse 1 of chapter 14 just to kind of set the stage. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, observed that the king's mind was on Absalom. Who is Joab? Right, he's like the minister of defense, the minister of war. He's the guy that handles, he's the head general. And so David oftentimes has Joab lead the troops into battle. And it's really what got David into trouble in chapter 11 is that David as king was not leading the troops as he normally would have. He has kind of just said, okay, Joab, you do that. And so Joab has become his, hey, you just go ahead and do that. But Joab notices something about David. What does he notice? He notices that Absalom, he's missing Absalom, that David really misses Absalom. Now, where's Absalom gone? After Absalom kills his brother, he takes off and he runs to Geshur, which is that's his grandfather. That's where his mother's from. And so he runs over there and stays separated out of Israel for 3 years. There's a separation there. So David's oldest son, Amnon, is dead, the heir to the throne, so to speak. His next son, Chileab, we don't really ever hear anything about him, have no idea what this guy's role. He's just, we know he was second born, but he's just kind of out of the scene. And Absalom is the next. What we see about Absalom, what is going to be more and more revealed about Absalom is Absalom is well thought of all throughout the kingdom. We notice guys along the way that have this kind of look, but he has movie star looks about him. He's got, what does he have? What's one of the characteristics of old Absalom? Oh, man, all the girls love that hair. Oh, they love that hair, man. I don't know if he's got it up in the bun or if he just lets it flow. I don't know, but he has got it going on. And so this guy, and he handles himself in a sense of authoritarian kind of persona, whatever the case may be. But everybody sees him as very capable. But it says that David missed him, and Joab notices this as well. Now, he's missing Absalom for probably a lot of reasons, but why do you think he's not bringing him back? Why do you think David has not just said, hey, go get Absalom, I'm telling him to bring him back? Why do you think? Yeah, now remember there's an issue that has happened. Absalom is basically a fugitive, isn't he? He's a fugitive. He has killed his brother and took off running, and so he's kind of a fugitive from there. So David, as the king, who is the ultimate judge in the land in many ways, what is he caught between right here? He's caught between being a king and being a what? A father. And so on one end, as a king, he knows he has to issue justice to his son. That's a hard thing to do. That brings a lot of animosity there. So his justice would have to be severe. You've murdered someone, so we have to deal with that. But as a father, what does he want to do? Bring him back. Yeah, restore the relationship and have mercy on him. And so he's caught in between this difficult place. And so you add to that his own feelings of, again, his guilt, David's own shame of what he's done, his embarrassment, his lack of moral authority. And instead of walking in any kind of victory because of what God has done in his life, he seems to really be defeated, and he's not leading well at all. And so here's David, who's a man after God's own heart, has had this affair, and man, it has really defeated David in a lot of ways, and we're not used to seeing David this way. We're used to seeing David as fighting Goliath, and we see David as leading armies into battle and dancing mightily before the Ark of the Covenant as he comes in there saying, I want to be more undignified than this. So we have this caricature almost of David as being, man, this is this guy. But when you begin to look at these chapters here, beginning in chapter 11, we just see issue after issue after issue. And David, who we look and we shake our head and we go, man, this is not the guy I thought I knew. Now this is David who is just not leading well. And because of his feelings of defeat, he doesn't feel like he can handle it well. So Joab sees this and wants to act. So what does he do in verse 2? It says, so Joab sent someone to Tekoa to bring a clever woman from there. And he told her, pretend to be in mourning. Dress in mourning clothes and don't put on any oil. Act like a woman who's been mourning for the dead for a long time. Go to the king and speak these words to him. And then Joab told her exactly what to say. Now, what is Joab doing here? What's he trying to do? What do you think Joab wants to accomplish? What is his? Now, let me just say this. This is something that I'm beginning to really notice, especially it's been in the chapters prior to, but it's really we're really seeing in chapter 14 is that everybody in this story has an angle. Everybody has an angle. No one is acting with integrity. No one's acting with character. No one is certainly not God-led. Everybody has an angle. And so you've got Joab with an angle, and we'll kind of walk through this. You got Joab with an angle. David even has an angle. Absalom is going to have an angle, and this woman is going to be used by Joab, but she's got an angle as well. So Joab sees David in this situation of longing for his son to come back, and so knowing that David is probably a little prideful. And is in that very difficult position, Joab takes it on himself to go, okay, I'm going to try to get these two together. I'm going to try to get Absalom and David. Let's get them back together. But let me tell you this. On the surface, it looks great. On the surface, you kind of go, man, isn't that Joab? Isn't he an awesome guy? Trying to work with dad and son, knowing there's issues there. But, man, we're going to restore these guys together because we need to be happy in this family. We need to be all working in the same. But he has an angle. Joab has an angle. As a matter of fact, if you kind of look at this, you realize that, again, everybody particularly in this story has an angle. What do you think Joab's angle is? It's very possible, and let's put it this way, Carol, because I think you're onto something there. I think he's saying, okay, wherever the chips fall here, whoever ends up the guy on the throne, I want to be there. And so if I can be on both ends of both these guys, because you know what he's noticing about Absalom? Absalom, let's go with this, is wanting to be restored with his father, but not in the way that we think. On the surface, we think, oh, son, man, he's missing his dad. He wants to get back with him and wants everything to be well. But what Absalom has is he has an angle as well. He's not looking for restoration because he longs for this relationship with his dad. What is he wanting? He wants to be king. And he is driven by this combination of political ambition, the need for, hey, if I can get right with dad again, at least on surface, everybody else will say, oh man, look at what Absalom has done. He's come back there. He's his prince in exile. He's come back. Man, don't we think a lot of Absalom here? But he's really just trying to get back into the door because he's got his mind set on this kingdom. Now, before we start casting a lot of stones at Absalom, there's a reason for that. You go back to 2 Samuel chapter 13. When Amnon did this to Absalom's sister, what did David do? Nothing. Nothing. And so Absalom had to take it on himself to handle what Dad should have taken care of. Not that David would have killed Amnon, but just to do something, to show some kind of justice, to do what was right. And Amnon said, Dad's not doing a thing here. And so bitterness begins to take place in his heart. And now, after 3 years of being estranged from his father and not hearing a word from Israel saying, hey, King says he wants you to come back, that resentment and that bitterness just continues to grow. See, David, who was always this man of action, who was always this guy that when he saw a problem, he took care of it. Remember Goliath? Why is everybody standing around? I'll take care of it. Yeah, that was David's mentality. And now David has gone from that man to now doing nothing. And it's beginning to, this smoke in this fire is now, or in this family is now turning into a fire. It's beginning to ignite. But Joab wants to get it together. He wants to make sure that he's on he wants to keep the political part stable. Let's don't let this kingdom get crazy, because if we start imploding on the inside, that means there's no place for me. So I got to keep this thing going. So Joab is doing all these things to try to firm up the foundation, knowing that I want to survive in the end. And so what does he do? He gets this lady to come in, and what does he want her to do? What does he want her to do? He wants her to be the one to try to bring Absalom back, but he wants her to do what? It's a story. And why does Joab think this would probably work with David? Because it's happened before. It's happened before. You remember Nathan? Hey, there's a guy that took somebody else's sheep. What you going to do about it? So now again, hey, I know a great way to get David. Let's get him into a story, because he falls for that story every time. And I know and David gets so emotional. But listen, what's worse, what's happening with David, and what the reason that he was not able to see, oftentimes God gives us discernment, and sometimes, man, somebody can be so convincing we're fooled. Sometimes we want to believe somebody so much that they can tell us something, and we can just be drawn into their story, and we find out later, well, I was wrong. Boy, I was pulled in. But many times we can see through it. Many times we can see what someone is saying or someone is doing, and that's because God gives us this discernment. We talked about this before in our message. So God gives us a discernment to be able to see and really understand, to look through what seems kind of dark and dim. And so, but David's lost that. He's lost that ability to see, and now he's led by emotion. Everything's emotional with David. And so he says, I want you to come in, tell them the story. Pretend this is who you are. I want you to act. Put on your best acting gear. Academy Award performance is what I'm wanting from you. And so pretend that you're grief-stricken by something that happened. So everything that she says from here never happened. Get that? So let's look at it. What happens here? So, and he tells her exactly what he wants her to say. He's the producer of the story. He's the writer. All she has to do is learn the lines. Verse 4. When the woman from Tekoa came to the king, she fell with her face to the ground. Good place to start, right? In homage. And said, help me, my king. Oh, my goodness. Immediately, David is drawn in. David still has a tender heart, still has a shepherd heart. So somebody who's in trouble. What's that? I'm sure she was. I'm sure she was, man. Oh, you gotta know it, man. King says, what can I do for you, honey? Well, that's just the Jim Yates version. That was not actually in there. So, verse 5, King says, what's the matter? She says, to tell you the truth, which she is telling a lie. Boy, goodness. I'm a widow. My husband died. Your servant had 2 sons. They were fighting in the field with no one to separate them. And one struck the other and killed him. One brother killed the other brother. My 2 sons fighting, and one died. Now the whole clan has risen up against your servant and said, hand over the one who killed his brother so that we may put him to death for the life of the brother he murdered. We will destroy the heir. What does she worry about? What is she worried about in the story? That one of my sons is dead. If the clan or the rest of the family come and take this other son, what is she worried about? Yeah, I'm going to be left alone. I'm not going to have anybody to work for me, to provide for me. I'm going to be left alone. And she says, they would extinguish my one remaining ember by not preserving my husband's name or posterity on earth. So not only would I not be able to be watched over and being taken care of, but now I will have no family, where it ends with me. And so the king, verse 8, being drawn in by the story, says, go home. I will issue a command on your behalf. And then the woman of Tekoa said to the king, my lord the king, may any blame be on me and my father's house, and may the king and his throne be innocent. Now, what's happening here? What's going on here? Now, one of your translation may say, mine, if you look back actually in verses 7, verse 7, where it says the whole clan has risen up against him. In some cases, it may say the avenger of blood and those kind of things. That's back to the cities of refuge that are mentioned in Numbers. If someone were killed accidentally and was thought of guilty of manslaughter, it was an accident, he could go to that city and be safe until his case could be heard properly, so that somebody wouldn't take matters into their own hands and take care of it. So this is, in the story, this is what she's worried about. And so David is saying, okay, I'm going to be the protector. In other words, David is saying, hey, just get behind me, the king, I'll take care of you. And but what he's doing is he's not going by law. He's choosing to now make his own law. He's pronouncing his own judgment. He's now becoming judge, jury, and everything. He is now becoming the law in his own mind. But he's just drawn in by the story. He's not able to have discernment. He's not able to really truly see what's going on here. And so he makes this pronouncement. Look at verse 11. Back in verse 10, he says, in my father's house may the king and his throne be innocent. Whoever speaks to you, the king said, bring him to me. He will not trouble you again. In other words, if anybody comes up against you and says, you just send him to me. I'll take care of you. And verse 11, please may the king invoke the Lord your God so that the avenger of blood, there it is, may not increase the loss, and they will not eliminate my son. And then in the last part of verse 11, as the Lord lives, not a hair of your son will fall to the ground. Now, what do you think David has just said? What has he just said? What has he ignored? What has he ignored for the sake of? He's ignored justice. That something needs to be taking place. Somehow there needs to be some kind of justice in the sake. But it's all for the sake of family. It's all for the sake of family loyalty and family sympathy. David ignores that justice needs to be done in this situation because one brother has killed another brother. And so he is just now extending mercy. In other words, don't worry about the justice. Let's pause for a minute and just think about the character of God. What do we know about God? He is loving. He's kind. What's that? And just. Most people, if you ask them about Christ or the character of God, they're going to major on the love, the justice, the faithfulness, the goodness, the grace, which are all true. And we want to hold that one. And yet when somebody says, but God is also just, we don't like that. Because what God's justice does is God's justice makes things right. As a matter of fact, justice is love. Because it's the perfect balance of the two. It doesn't ignore what has to happen as a result. but displays and gives what we don't deserve. And that's exactly what Christ did, right? When Christ comes, what does he do? He handles the justice of God, which sin had to be dealt with, but he extends grace and mercy to an undeserving people. And so in this particular instance, but David is completely throwing aside justice in the story. He's being drawn into the story. You see what's happening? And he's not able to see clearly. So he's not able to tell this woman from Tekoa, I hear you. My heart breaks for you. And I will work and do all that I can. But baby, justice has to happen. There has to be justice in the story. We can't ignore that woman from Tekoa. We've got to handle that. And so David just says this. So I can see behind the curtain, there's Joab going. He's listening. He's listening. And so sure enough, he hears exactly what he wants to hear. Why? When David says this, remember when Nathan says, and David gets furious because of the sheep, and because of that, what is Nathan's response? You are the man. Captures him here. Same situation. Captures David. And this woman, in all humility, is going to say, David, you're the man. You're the same one. And so, but she's not calling him out. She's just saying, hey, what you said, let's make that happen to your son. So look at what happens here. Then the woman said in verse 12, please may your servant speak a word to my lord the king. And he said, speak. And the woman asked, why have you devised something similar against the people of God? When the king spoke as he did about this matter, he has pronounced his own guilt. The king has not brought back his own banished one, who will certainly die and be like water poured out on the ground, which can't be recovered. But God would not take away a life. He would devise plans so that the one banished from him does not remain banished. Now, they're taking a lot of liberty with using God's name here. The idea is let's just get Absalom back. Let's make amends. Let's make things right. Let's bring y'all back together. But instead, there's this idea that justice is not going to be taken care of. And so the woman's bold. She kind of confronts his sin of not initiating reconciliation with Absalom. She's calling him out in a sense for 3 years, your son's been over there and you've done nothing about this. And David did have some responsibility to initiate this reconciliation. But what is happening here is this woman is kind of taking some liberties here, saying, look at what you've done there. God would never want you to be constantly estranged from him. God would want you to bring things back. God would want you to make things right again. And he'd never want you to be forever estranged, which, yes, partially true, but also she wants to eliminate the justice as well. And so verse 15 says this. So she says, now therefore, I've come to present this matter to my lord the king because the people have made me afraid. Your servant thought I must speak to the king. Perhaps the king will grant his servant's request. The king will surely listen in order to rescue his servant from the hand of this man who would eliminate both me and my son from God's inheritance. Your servant thought, may the word of my lord the king bring relief, for my lord the king is able to discern the good and the bad like the angel of God. Well, he was not really able to, but she says it. May the Lord your God be with me. And the king answered the woman, I'm going to ask you something. Don't conceal it from me. And the woman replied, let my lord the king speak. And the Lord said, did Joab put you up to all of this? And so he is able to see through that. Even though she is staying to the story and even though she is sticking to it the best that she could, he was able to come and say, this wasn't yours, was it? Joab did this. Joab's the one that brought this back. And so she admits it in verse 19, verse 8:19. And the king asked, did Joab put you up to all? This woman said, as you live, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or left from the Lord. From all my lord the king says, yes, your servant Joab is the one who gave orders to me. He told your servant exactly what to say. Joab, your servant, has done this to address the issue indirectly. But my Lord has wisdom like the wisdom of the angel of God, knowing everything on earth. She's trying to keep her head, I think. In verse 21, then the king said to Joab, I hereby grant this request. Go bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell with his face to the ground in homage and praised the king. Today your servant knows I have found favor with you, the Lord the king, because the king has granted the request of your servant. What's going on there? What's happening? Huh? He's going to be there. He's going to be at the end of when all the chairs, like the old saying, when the music stops in the musical chairs, I want to make sure there's a chair for me. And so he's making sure. But what's his end game here? I mean, what is David thinking through all this? It's a hard one to go because no one's is being led by the character of God. It is. Everybody, and really what we can kind of see here is what happens when sin just is never really truly dealt with, when sin just covers our family, when sin is covering, and let's say it's covering a church or covering any kind of situation, when it's not dealt with, when that sin is not rooted out, it just grows and grows and grows, and it destroys everywhere. And when that smoke starts billowing up and you look and things are on fire, it's hard to stop it. And what is happening with this family is what should have been dealt with early at the very beginning has been allowed to continue to grow. And now you have no one that's leading with character, no one who's leading by the Lord, coming before the Lord saying, Lord, show me what to do. Everybody has their own angle. And so when it's all settled and done, yes, Absalom is going to come back, but it's going to only make things worse, because when no one is being led by God, then what happens? Man, everybody goes to their own way. Everybody's doing their own bidding, and next thing you know, this kingdom is beginning to implode. Everybody has it's interesting because even though everybody's being led by their own angle, it seems like from the outside that everything looks good. Oh man, look at David. He's going to get restored to Absalom. He's doing this out of guilt, out of shame, out of embarrassment. He's like, okay, just bring him back instead of dealing with justice. He's doing that. Joab, when all the music stops, I want to make sure I have a chair. He's being led by, but everybody looks, oh, look at Joab being the mediator, bringing these two sides together. And then Absalom, man, he's going to come back with, everybody's going to sing his praises. Oh, man, he is back. Look at this guy. He is movie star looks. This is our next king probably. And yet he's all about trying to undermine David. It's everything on the surface. That's why we can never look at surface, can we? It looks so great here on the surface and everything looks good. But man, sometimes when you peel things back, it just begins to reveal the ugliness there. And sure enough, in this story, that's all it is because sin is reigning. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't lean on your own understanding. Well, look at what happens here. And so he tells Joab to go get him. Joab falls on his face thinking he's, okay, well, I've got David doing what I want him to do. But verse 20, it says in verse 23, so Joab got up. He went to Geshur, brought Absalom to Jerusalem. However, the king added, he may return to his house, but he may not see my face. So Absalom returned to his house, but he did not see the king. So why didn't David do that? David says, go get him and bring him on back to Israel, but he just can't see me. Maybe there's still an unforgiveness there. Why do you think that David's not, there's probably a lot of, I don't appreciate what's all going on here and how I've been tricked through this whole deal. What else? Why else do you think that David just doesn't bring him on in? Let's make things right. David was not, yes, he needed to get things right. Yes, it was probably a large part of his responsibility to initiate things to get right, because he needed to administer justice. He needed to administer mercy. He needed to have this restoration as well. But because of David's all these things going through his mind and his heart, and because of this sin that he had, and because he did not feel this moral authority, and because he was not ready to initiate that yet, and he was kind of coerced and kind of pushed to do something he wasn't ready to do, he said, okay, I can only go so far. Bring him back, but I'm not going to see him. Now, he probably, certainly he still loved him. Certainly he wanted that, but he was not ready to see this. And so look at what happens as a result. And we got to be quick at this end, but look at what happens here. In verse 25, tells us a little bit about Absalom. No man in all of Israel was as handsome and highly praised as Absalom. Ooh, that's pretty high praise, isn't it? From the sole of his foot to the top of his head, he did not have a single flaw. Wow. Woo, my goodness. I mean, you could say, hey, put your feet up in the air. I don't see nothing on your soles of your foot. Boy, that's some handsome feet right there. All the way to the top of his head. And look at verse 26. When he shaved his head, he shaved it every year because his hair got so heavy for him that he had to shave it off. He would weigh the hair from his head. It would be 5 pounds according to royal standard. That's a lot of hair. That man could grow some hair. Verse 27. 3 sons were born to Absalom, and a daughter named Tamar, who was a beautiful woman. Why do you think he named her Tamar or Tamar? Just kind of in honor of his sister. She was a beautiful woman. Verse 28, Absalom resided in Jerusalem 2 years, but never saw the king. That means 5 years he's not seen David. And then Absalom sent for Joab in order to send him to the king, but Joab was unwilling to come. He sent him again a second time, but he still wouldn't come. So he's wanting to see David, but why? Why? It's all outer picture. It's all about how it would be seen. Can you imagine what's happening in these 5 years? He was already bitter toward his dad. His dad won't see him or have any conversation. What do you think's happening? Do you think Absalom's going, you know what? I need to forgive old dad. Man, I need to, you know what? Part of this is me to blame. So I need to see dad so I can ask for forgiveness. No. What's happening in Absalom's heart, he's becoming more bitter. He's becoming more of just having this terrible feeling against his father. Now in his heart, there is war growing in him and saying, okay, I'm gonna take this guy down. It's all for outward appearance that he wants to make things right with David. But now Joab, he can't get Joab's attention. Joab's the one that initially brought him back. Now, no matter what I'm doing, he won't come to me. And so what does he have to do? Look at what happens to get Joab's attention. Verse 29. Then Absalom sent for Joab and was unwilling to come. He sent for him again. The second time, he still wouldn't come. Then Absalom said to his servants, see, Joab has a field right next to mine, and he has barley there. Go and set the fire to it. Speaking of fire, here we go. So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Now, yes, it's a reality of what's happening, but it's an indication of what's happening inside this area. This sin that started with this Bathsheba affair has now become a fire, this raging within. And all this stuff, nobody's character-led, nobody's integrity, nobody can put aside their pride and say, you know what, I need to instigate restoration. I need to ask for forgiveness. I need to do anything I can to restore things. Everybody's pride, everybody's angle, everybody all about me. Fire has come on, and look what happens. Joab, in verse 31, Joab came to Absalom's house and demanded, why did your servant set my field on fire? And Absalom explained, look, I sent for you and said, come here. I want to send you to the king to ask, why have I come back from Geshur? I'd be better off if I were still there. So now let me see the king. If I'm guilty, let him kill me. Joab went to the king and told him. So David summoned Absalom, who came to the king, and bowed down with his face to the ground before him. And then the king kissed Absalom. On some of the surface level, it seems like all is right, but it's not. It is not. This is only something that's on the outside. David's forgiveness of Absalom was completely inadequate, and it was going to lead to further outbreak of sin. You know, when you look at this story, a few things stand out very clearly to me. The importance of wise counselors in our life. We have to have godly people in our life that can come so that we can tell our story to, that we can say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, but we need wise counselors that can kind of see through things, see to the end game and the discernment, and say, hey, I need you to speak truth into me because what I'm seeing, I'm not able to see clearly. We need wise counsel in our life. And you know what? Justice and mercy, that always is going to reflect God's character. It's going to reflect the character of God. So whenever we act with mercy, with justice, with what's right, doing the right thing, it reflects God, who's perfect in both of those. This is a story that seems to continue to get worse. And the worst is still to come. And it's what happens when we do not deal with the sin in our life. Christ came to deal with that for us, to deal with that sin, to defeat that in our life. And so when we turn our eyes to Him, we're able to deal with that as well. And so it's vital for us that in the midst of a chaotic world that we keep our eyes on the one who brings peace, patience, mercy, and grace. Okay, let me pray. Father, we are just thankful for your word, just thankful for how you speak to us. Lord, thank you for what we can see here. And Lord, it's a reminder to where we need to go, and that's directly to you. So help us to keep our eyes always on you. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for the resurrection. Thank you, Jesus, for what you've done for us, for victory. For we ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye to everybody who's been with us on Facebook and YouTube. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next Wednesday morning.